Hey folks, this is Cetriya, C-E-T-R-I-Y-A. So what I'm going to be working on right now is kind of composition ideas and notes because I need to work on some things. Let's make some tips about composition. First thing I tend to do actually is just make some general bounding box. That's roughly the size of the paper you're going to draw or whatever composition bounding that you want to go for. I used to do this for comics also, so this will just, it's kind of nostalgic to me. Usually what I like to use is to get the composition with some simple tools, some pencil work, and usually a shade color, something not too dark. So 2 shades of gray, pencil, eraser, and you'll see why I'm using the 2 shades of gray pretty quickly in creating some compositions. So this will be kind of intuitive. As I've gone throughout life and you collect like visuals, like if you look at things, you just kind of develop like a mental library when it comes to these things. So hopefully it's not too confusing how I explain about some of the compositions. And I'm coming at this like pretty blank, like my mind is pretty blank. So just in case for those of you who've been having difficulty coming up with something. So different ways for doing composition. There's more technical ways of doing it, but what I tend to like to do is I tend to just like my first thing is like coming up with just some kind of abstract shapes that I like. Usually cutting up the frame by 2/3. So this is like 1/3 and this is 2/3. And the other thing I like to do is having 3 sides of the paper touched. So it could be touched this way, it could be touched that way, it could be touched this way. And from there, you're kind of already like cutting up in 3. And hopefully you can actually see what the lines are not too, it's not too thin. Let me see if I darken it out a little bit. Hopefully that's a bit more clear for you guys. So that's pretty much what I tend to do. And it doesn't have to be triangles. It could be circular stuff. So you can have 2 circles. And then you can see that it's touching 3 sides of the paper corner. So 1, 2, 3. You know, you could do like this way and then like that. So you got 1, 2, 3 sides of the paper. So that's like the quick overview that I do. So using these shapes, even if you go like this, and now you have 4 sides of the corners touch. And from there, using these shapes, I tend to go ahead and develop an element. So other ways that you could come up with composition is literally just going out and looking up, you know, graphic design things, and not just of illustration. It could be of like menus. It could be of posters, CD covers, web design. You'll see like the different variations of the graphic designs where it kind of show you that. So right now I'm just thinking of what I should draw. Usually I draw girls, don't I? So let me not draw girls. So let's do something really funny. And right now, like I said, I'm just doing like some rough drafts. So I think other things you can do is like add dynamics by messing with like your perspective. And your perspective can be like creative perspective where you have your character sitting in different planes, but not like. And when you're doing like rough thumbnails, you're just, you know, you're just pretty rough enough for you to get to understand what you have written, like what you've sketched basically. And actually, I'm not really good at foreshortening. Other things you can do is like add cheat things. Well, they're not cheat, but like text or something. So I think I'm going to use this for a character for my web novel that I want to actually write or draw. I haven't decided yet. I haven't even decided what his name is going to be like. Other things you can try is possibly adding like multiple characters too, which gets kind of complicated. So it's always good to like look up references of different artist styles, because if you've noticed in your favorite artist, you can kind of see like their go-to compositions. So it's okay to look those up because, you know, no one has like copyright over compositions, neither color, which will be another video about picking like colors and stuff like that. It's also cool seeing like old school advertisements because they're just kind of fun. They're just kind of fun, old school advertisements, and seeing how they put the characters together, especially because I feel like to an extent people are like they're kind of depending on making the details pretty versus just getting to their basics, because now we have technology that can print all sorts of things. And it's okay to have stuff like being cropped off the artwork. You know, you don't want everything to be on the photo itself. And it's okay if you want to do like floating characters and stuff like that. Let's see if I can attempt to do a group. And usually that group there's like big faces here. Keep in mind, I have like no sense of character of what I'm doing here. I'm just putting stuff just to get the point of the composition. So the reason why I picked 2 shades, and it could be markers, it could be watercolors, it could be pencils if you want, but this is a preference for me. I like these to help block out your shading, not your shading, but like your shapes for your composition. And the reason being is that you're able to see the image from afar it gives it more clarity. And then you're able to see it from up close. It gives it a very strong impact. And all of these are more, there's like more information when it comes to looking up technical books of composition, but it helps for you to like come out with understanding the main parts of your illustration, and it keeps you from like overdoing it with, it keeps you from overdoing it with the details. Because if it's not easy for you to read, then you're just going to be like, what is going on? And you could choose to block out the background if you wish, so it's easy for you to read what's going on. It helps because it gives like a nice strong shape, and it lets you know if you're already having issues with like your composition. Blocking out the shapes also helps you with like the highest contrast stuff. You'll know what's your like spot black area versus not spot black area. And again, since this is just thumbnails, we're not picking like colors or anything like that. But if ever you want something nice and quick. So we have a composition. We have like several compositions here, and just like a quick recap on building compositions. Just, you know, don't make it too hard on yourself when you're doing like thumbnail stage. You make your couple of boxes, you know, the general like size of the paper, just rough. And you make sure that the easiest thing is to have like objects touching like at least 3 parts of the page, you know, 1, 2, 3. You know, you have both characters touching on the side, and then you have an element touching the edge of the floor, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you have them in different shades. You can start with triangles, rectangles, circles. And then after that, I usually use 1 or 2 shades of gray, or any kind of like 2 shades, kind of lighter than your pencil, so that way you can see it, to kind of like block out your major shapes. You could even use your shadows as a shape. And just to be fun, we could also do like a horizontal type composition. And there you go, a couple of compositions. You even have some horizontal ones. And you could always use like extra elements to fix your compositions, like clothing folds, hair, accessories, lines, things to draw the attention. And if you look up some books, which I will put in the description below, of some books that I find really helpful compositions for, or more detailed, but I just wanted to keep this like quick, like if you're just sitting there and you just need to come up with some stuff that I just did right now, I have absolutely no idea who these characters are. I'm just drawing stuff. That's basically it. So that's for this guy.